From translation, Net New English Translation, this 140 day of the year, today we are reading passages 2 Chronicles 35-36, 2 Chronicles chapter 35, verses 1 to 24. Josiah celebrated the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem. On the 14th day of the first month, they killed the lambs. He appointed the priests to their posts and encouraged them in the service of the Lord's temple. He said to the Levites who taught all Israel the things of the Lord, "Place the holy ark in the temple that Solomon son of David, king of Israel, built. You no longer need to carry it on your shoulders. Now serve the Lord your God and his people Israel. Organize yourselves according to your family divisions, as outlined in the scroll written by King David of Israel and by his son Solomon. Stand in the holy place with a group of Levites for each family subdivision of your fellow citizens, and for the descendants of the people of Levi, and for the priests, and for all the other people. Kill the Passover lambs, consecrate yourselves, and make preparations for your fellow citizens to do what the Lord commanded through Moses." Josiah donated to the priests, to the Levites, and to all the people of Jerusalem as Passover offerings 30,000 sheep, young cattle, and goats. His officials also willingly contributed to the people, the priests, and the Levites. Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Jehiel, leaders in God's temple, donated 26 Passover offerings and 300 young cattle. Kenaniah and his brothers Shemaiah and Nethanel, as well as Hashabiah, Jael, and Jozabad, leaders of the Levites, donated 5,000 Passover offerings to the Levites, along with 500 young cattle. The service was carried out. The priests stood at their posts, and the Levites were in their assigned places according to the king's command. The Passover lambs were killed, and the priests splashed the blood as they received it from the Levites. The Levites had skinned the animals. They set aside the burnt offerings for delivery to the family groups of the people to sacrifice to the Lord, as is prescribed in the scroll of Moses. They did the same with the cattle. They cooked the Passover offerings over the fire according to the regulations, and the holy offerings they had prepared for distribution to all the people of the community. After this they made preparations for themselves and for the priests, for the priests descended from Aaron were busy offering burnt offerings and fat portions until night. The Levites prepared for themselves, and for the priests descended from Aaron. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, were in their assigned places, according to the command of David, Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun the king's prophet. The gatekeepers were at each gate. They did not need to leave their assigned tasks, because their fellow Levites made preparations for them. So all the service of the Lord was carried out that day to celebrate the Passover and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord, as King Josiah had ordered. The people of Israel who were present celebrated the Passover at that time and observed the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. A Passover like this had not been celebrated in Israel since the days of the prophet Samuel. No king of Israel had ever celebrated a Passover like the one celebrated by Josiah, the priests, the Levites, all the people of Judah and Israel who were there in Jerusalem, the people of Israel who were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. This Passover was celebrated in the 18th year of Josiah's reign. After Josiah had done all this for the temple, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, marched up to fight at Carchemish on the Euphrates River, and Josiah went out to confront him. But Necho sent messengers to him, saying, "What is the issue between you and me, O king of Judah? I have not come against you today, but against the nation with which I am at war. God told me to hurry. Do not oppose God, or he will destroy you." But Josiah did not turn away from him. Instead, he disguised himself to fight with him. He refused to listen to Necho's words from the mouth of God, and so he came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. The archers shot King Josiah. The king said to his servants, "Take me away, for I am seriously wounded." So his servants took him out of the war chariot and carried him in his second chariot back to Jerusalem, where he died and was buried in the tombs of his ancestors. All Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Verses 1 to 23, the people of the land took Jehoahaz son of Josiah and made him king in Jerusalem in place of his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. The king of Egypt deposed him in Jerusalem and imposed on Judah a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. The king of Egypt made Eliakim, Jehoahaz's brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. Necho took Jehoahaz and went back to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did evil in the sight of the Lord his God. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked him and bound him with bronze shackles to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took some items from the temple of the Lord to Babylon and put them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the events of Jehoiakim's reign, including the detestable things he did and all that happened to him, are recorded in the scroll called the Annals of the Kings of Judah. Jehoiakim was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. At the turn of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar summoned him and took him to Babylon. He also took some of the items from the temple of the Lord to Babylon and put them in his palace in Babylon. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did evil in the sight of the Lord his God. He did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke for the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear allegiance in God's name. He stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord, the God of Israel. All the leaders of the priests and the people became more and more unfaithful. They followed all the detestable practices of the nations, and they defiled the Lord's temple in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent messengers to them, for he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the Lord's wrath was so stirred up against his people that there was no remedy. So the Lord brought up against them the commanders of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He killed their young men with the sword in the temple of their God, and he had no compassion on young men or young women, the old or the infirm. He took everything to Babylon, every vessel from the temple of God, large and small, the treasures of the Lord's temple, and the treasures of the king and his officials. They burned the house of God and broke down the wall of Jerusalem. They burned all its fortified buildings with fire and destroyed all its valuable items. Those who escaped the sword he carried away to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the Persian kingdom arose. The land enjoyed its Sabbaths. For as long as it lay desolate it rested, until the 70 years were completed, as the prophet Jeremiah had predicted. In the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord stirred the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia to make a proclamation throughout his kingdom, and also to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus king of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Whoever among you belongs to his people, may his God be with him, and may he go up